Have you ever felt invisible, as if the world ignored you, as if even the people who should love you, they turned your back? This is how the story of Santa Margarita de Città di Castello began. Blind, rejected, hidden in a stone cell like a shame, abandoned by those who should protect it most, silenced by a church that did not know what to do with what was sacred but did not seem perfect. But what no one imagined, it would see with the eyes of the soul what no one else saw, and that a shocking miracle would happen through it, a miracle that the church tried to hide for centuries. If you have already been rejected, humiliated, forgotten, this story is for you, because the miracle that turned the pain of an invisible girl, it can transform yours today too. First, check it out if you have clicked the subscribe button. Have you ever imagined being born in a rich, noble, powerful family? But when opening your eyes, or rather when trying, all you find is dark, and not just darkness of the world around, but of the very soul of those who should love you. Now imagine this happening to you. You are born, helpless, with your heart pulsating through life, but you do not receive the delicate touch of a mother on her face, nor the proud look of a father. What you receive is silence, and worse, shame. Margarita was born around 1287 in a small Italian town called Metola, a village surrounded by dense hills and fogs, a place that seemed to whisper ancient secrets through the alleys of stone. His parents were noble, aristocrats in the region, and they were looking forward to a perfect heir, someone who could continue the blue blood of the lineage, someone strong, beautiful, healthy. But when Dave came into the world, it was not what they expected. She was born blind. His eyes would never see the blue of the sky or the brightness of the candles in a mass. Her legs were deformed, and her arms had malformations. The midwife hesitated when she handed her to her mother. The living room, once full of expectation, plunged into a silence that would froze to the warmer heart. The mother looked away. The father turned his face. A look, a judgment, a silent verdict. It can't be our daughter. They didn't say these words, but their gaze shouted louder than any sentence. Dramatic break. Breathe. Want to feel the power that the church tried to hide on the skin? The free ebook with the hidden miracles of Santa Margarita is available for a limited time. But beware, do not look on Google. Click the link set in the comments. This is where the free access is. Who has read says they never prayed the same way. You will understand why. Go down to the comments and click the link set now before they take the air, because now you need to understand something essential. At that time, having a child with physical deformities was seen as a divine punishment, a sign of curse, a burden. For a noble family, this was synonymous with public humiliation, and what they decided to do changed everything. They didn't kill her, but maybe you think they did something even worse. They built a small stone cell at the back of the castle. A cell like those used for prisoners, but without grids, because it was not necessary. She couldn't walk. There were no windows, just a small crack where air entered and a lint of light. There in that cold, wet darkness, it was where Daisy lived her first years of life. Can you imagine? The sound of the drops of water dripping from the ceiling, the overwhelming silence, no affection voice, no lullaby, no toy, only the cold wall under the fingers and the smell of the wet stone. And the worst, she didn't know this was wrong. For Margarita, that cell was the world, that darkness was normal, that loneliness was all she knew. And yet there was something about her that her parents never realized. While others saw disability, God via purity. While the nobles saw shame, the sky saw a chosen soul. Even there, in that cruel arrest, something began to be born inside Daisy. A silent light, a faith that no one taught, a love that no one showed, a force that no one expected. You who listen to me now, maybe you have already felt unwanted, out of place, forgotten by those who should welcome you. But pay attention. It is precisely in the darkness that the stars shine more strongly, and Margarita, even blind, would become one of those stars. But calm down, we are still only at first, because what comes next is even more shocking. If you are with me here, take a deep breath, because the next part of the story will make your heart tighten and at the same time rekindle something inside you. Have you been alone for so long that you started talking to silence? Margarita was. For years. Imagine this for a moment. Close your eyes. Take all the sounds around. Now imagine that you were born that way, without seeing anyone's face, without seeing B-Sun is not only once, but more than physical blindness. Imagine being locked between 4 stone walls as a shameful secret that no one could know. There, in that dark, cold cell, time didn't pass. He dragged on. Daisy had no toys. I didn't know what it was like to play with other children. She didn't even know there were other children. Her world was stone, silence, and a single voice. The voice of the servant, a simple woman with calloused hands who entered from time to time in that cell to take some bread, a little water, and something no one saw, hope. She was called Lucia, and it wasn't just a maid. It was the only wire that connected Daisy to the outside world. But more than that, she was the only one who saw Daisy as a human being. Lucia kneeling next to that bed of straw and said, "Daisy, even if you don't see the light of the world, God sees you with eyes of love." Can you imagine the power of it? In solitude, in prison, in darkness. A blind child began to believe that there was something, or rather someone, who saw her inside. Lucia talked about Jesus, told stories of the saints, and Daisy heard with her heart. She had no books, I couldn't read, but it memorized everything. Each word, each psalm, every parable, and started to answer. It started to pray, started singing. Yes, sing. You may be wondering, singing what? Singing praises, singing prayers, singing psalms she barely understood but felt. His voice was soft, pure, so pure that sometimes the castle servants stopped to hear, hidden behind the stone wall. It was as if, in that muffled corner, there was something from heaven, something that escaped from the cell and crossed the silence of the whole house. And yet, her parents were still blinded. Yes, blind even having perfect eyes. They kept her there, as if she hides a wound, as who denies their own shame. But Daisy did not surrender. She turned that cold hole into an invisible sanctuary. An altar without flowers, a bankless church, a temple made of stone, but full of faith. Have you noticed that the biggest lights don't need candles? Daiv's soul shone, even in the densest darkness. While many lost faith living in the palaces, she found her living in a jail. But there was a detail you need to know. Every time Margarita prayed, she said something strange to the servant. "I feel his hand holding mine." Lucia shivered. Because from time to time, she saw her blind eyes of Margarita tearing, and it was not sadness, it was ecstasy. It was as if that girl talked to God himself, as if, in that cold cell, the sky leaned to listening to it, as if, where the world threw it to die, God had planted an invisible flower that flourished in the dark. Do you feel it? It's not just an old story, it is a reminder, because maybe you also have a dark place inside, a cell where they locked their self-esteem, their faith, their value. But if even Daisy, forgotten, rejected, invisible, managed to turn stone into an altar, maybe it's time for you to look inside and remember, God's light doesn't need a window to enter. It enters where there is soul. But what you don't know yet is that Daisy's world was about to change, and not in a beautiful way, not with white horses or happy endings. The change would come as an earthquake, with pain, with shock, with abandonment. Yes, the worst was yet to come. Have you ever had hope from those who make the chest hurt, so much so that you want something to finally change? Now imagine, after years of locked between cold stones, your cell opens. Someone touches your hand, says you will leave, that there will be a trip. May God be waiting outside. This is what happened to Margarita. One day, without warning, his parents opened the cell. The hinges moaned as if they cried inside. They dressed it with a cloak, put it in a small wagon covered by cloths, not protection, but to hide it from the eyes of the people. The destination, a place called Città di Castello. There, they said, there was a sanctuary where many miracles happened, where crippled walked, blind saw, and sick returned home healed. Fame spread like fire among the peasants, and even the nobles began to believe, not by faith, but for convenience. It was there that the false hope of Margarita's parents was born. They did not take her for love. No, they took it like a problem to be fixed, as one who takes a stain to be washed. In their minds, if God healed it, they could finally present it to society. And if they didn't heal it, well, they already had another plan. The trip was long, silent, squeaking. Daisy didn't complain. She smiled. She thought she was finally going to know the world, that the parents loved her, who were taking her to a special place. Do you feel it? The pain of misleading innocence. When they arrived at Città di Castello, there was a great movement. Pilgrims, monks, bells playing in the distance, smell of incense and dust. The parents took her to the church door. They didn't carry her on her lap. They just pushed her to the stone steps, as if pushed a burden. "Wait here. Let's get in and pray." She nodded. He sat on the cold floor, his hands on his lap, his face turned up as he hears the sky, but they never came back. Never. The parents came in and went out on another door. They set up on the horse and disappeared into the dust of the road. Simple as that. Have you ever felt disposable? Daisy felt, and I didn't even know. She was sitting, hours, maybe days, waiting, with child faith, thinking, God is taking care of me. Dad and Mom soon come back. But they didn't come back. It was there, on that cold stone floor, at the feet of a church, that Daisy was left behind as a broken object, a soul thrown to luck, blind, alone, not knowing even what it was like to be free. But that's where the story turns upside down, because the sky was looking. While the powerful rejected her, the humble began to approach. First, they were the curious, then the godly. A woman who, sweeping the entrance of the church, realized that she would not leave. A man of the sacristy brought bread. A village lady knelt beside her and held her hand. "Daughter, where are your parents?" She answered softly, "They went to pray. I think they got lost. But I'm fine. God is with me." That answer, sweet and tragic, was recorded in the woman's soul. Do you understand? While Margarita believed she was being loved, she was being abandoned. But God, who sees the invisible, did not allow her to fall into oblivion. He moved the hearts of the simple. He used ordinary people to show extraordinary love. Gradually, she was welcomed, received shelter, received food, received attention, not as empty charity, but as someone who begins to be seen, as a soul that begins to exist for the world. And you, who are listening to it now, need to keep something in the heart. God never leaves you, even when those who should love you most leave you, even when you are rejected by those who trusted the most. He raises unlikely people in unlikely places to remind you that you still matter. Daisy was abandoned at the door of a church, but it was there that God began to write the most beautiful chapter of his life, and you can't imagine what comes next. If you want to continue, let me know, because the next part will mess with your heart. Have you ever met someone who, even without seeing with your eyes, seemed to see straight inside you? So it is. Margarita was like this. Blind, yes, but with a vision that no one could understand. She saw no walls, saw no faces, did not see the blue sky or the stone floor. But I saw something else, something human eyes do not capture. She saw what hid behind the smiles, what lived in the shadows of the soul, which even the priests had no courage to confess, and that started early. Shortly after being welcomed by simple people from that little town, Margarita was taken to a nun's convent. Not because they wanted to turn her into Santa, but because no one knew what to do with a blind and abandoned girl. It was an act of charity, or at least it seemed. Only inside, something started to happen. Something no one expected. not even her. Have you ever entered a place and felt there was something wrong, even without seeing anything? Daisy felt and spoke. She said, "There's someone here who is sad inside, even smiling outside. Or you carried something very heavy for many years, but God says he has forgiven. In the beginning, the nuns thought it was imagination, or maybe a word game. But time went by, and Daisy's words began to touch people in a way that no preaching played. She described secrets without ever hearing them. She called the name of someone who was crying in silence across the chapel. She saw the soul, and when it happens, everything changes. Because you can't lie anymore. You can't hide. You can't pretend holiness when someone looks straight at what you have inside. But she didn't do this with arrogance. I didn't judge. On the contrary, he welcomed, hugged, smiled, and when he put his hand over his head and prayed, the impossible was beginning to happen. A woman who had been with high fever for weeks to get up the next day, whispering, "The girl prayed for me, and I felt a warmth that healed me." A family divided by fights, reconciled after a conversation with Daisy. No formulas, without sermons, just truth. Have you ever seen someone who didn't need eyes to see what was invisible? And that's where tension begins. Because while the simple people were enchanted, the church of the time was beginning to be bothered. The superiors, the theologians, the men of authority, they didn't know what to do with that girl who knew too much, who spoke of hidden sins, that healed with simple words, who played the deepest wounds of the human soul. They observed it, tested, they doubted, and as always happens with the prophets, tried to silence it. This is not a miracle, it's illusion. These cures can be coincidence. Don't talk about her much. This can attract problems. Do you notice? Daisy didn't want fame. I didn't want applause. It did not seek to be worshipped. She just wanted to love, serve, heal. But even so, they began to try to hide the sign, suffocating what the sky was revealing through it. And yet, the sky insisted. Daisy kept seeing where no one saw. Have you ever felt like someone who carries something sacred but is treated as if he's wrong? She felt for years, but never murmured, never retaliated, never had anger, just kept doing what she was doing, praying, playing hearts, cleaning the wounds of the human soul with sweet words and closed eyes, but full of light. Maybe you think this is all exaggeration, a godly tale just to inspire, but believe me, the nuns started to write down. The priests began to be silent, and the people began to come from afar, from neighboring cities just to see, or rather that girl who seemed to come from another world. Do you feel it inside? It's the sky reminding you of something, which to see with the eyes is not always to see, and that sometimes who has been rejected, humiliated, and forgotten, it is precisely those who God chooses to show his most living presence. But it's not over yet. In the next part, you will see how Daisy has become such a powerful voice that the world could no longer ignore. A voice that echoes to this day, even centuries later. If you're ready, just let me know to continue. Did you feel something different listening to this story? Maybe it's not by chance. This free ebook may be the answer you have ordered in silence. He reveals the hidden miracles, the healing prayers, and the spiritual secrets of a saint who was ignored, but chosen by God. Do not look later. Do not save to read later. Click now on the link fixed in the comments and receive your copy before they take it. It's free, it's deep, it's for you. Go there in the comments and click the link set now. Have you ever noticed how the world often enhances people only after they go? With Margarita, it was no different. She died young, very young. His fragile body could not stand the pain, deprivation, humiliations that the world has imposed for many years. But you need to understand, Daisy didn't die like a weak girl. She died like a silent warrior, a martyr of light. A soul that won the darkness even without seeing. The news of his death spread quickly through the alleys of Città di Castello, but unlike what you may imagine, there was no official procession, no bells in lament, no noble crowns. Church authorities wanted to bury it as any. Yes. The girl who read the souls, who played hearts, who healed the sick with a whispered prayer was placed in a simple casket, without flowers, without singing, without procession. They said it was prudent not to make a fan, that the people were exaggerating. But the people did not silent. And this is where you will understand a powerful thing. When God touches a heart, He lights a flame that no one can erase. The streets were filled with simple people, peasants, mothers with children on their lap, old hands with their handy hands, young people who heard her stories since children. Everyone knew in the back of the soul that they were facing something much larger than a common death. They gathered in front of the church, not with screams, but with a faith that made the foundations of doubt shake. It cannot be buried like any. She is holy. They bury her with honor, or we will do. The priest hesitated. The superiors tried to contain the crowd, but there was something in that atmosphere, something sacred, indescribable, which made even the hardest they felt a knot in their throat. It was then that, in the midst of that crowd, a woman approached. In the arms, a child, a girl, small, pale, with her legs atrophied, shrunk like dry branches, never walked. It had never even been standing. The mother trembled. I didn't want to cause scandal. I just wanted to touch the coffin with faith. If she was really holy, then God shows me, may my daughter walk. There was silence, and you know what happened, don't you? The crowd paved the way in respect. The mother approached. He put the child's hand over the simple wooden coffin, prayed, and then the miracle came. The girl moved, first the fingers, then the feet, then he sat down. And before hundreds of witnesses, weeping, shouting, and knees on the floor, she stood up and took the first steps of her life. Do you feel the weight of it? It wasn't just a cure, a sky signing below. It was God saying with all the letters, "This blind girl was my chosen one." The cry became praise. The bells finally played, and the priests, previously contained, now train. One of them fell to his knees, saying aloud, "Forgive us, Lord, because we ignore your miracle before our eyes." And what came next? The church had no choice. Before the people, the miracles, the living faith that spread, they had to recognize Daisy was not a mistake of nature. It was not a hidden shame. It was a saint, a light that shone in the middle of the stone, a soul that saw what no one saw and loved as no one loved. His body was prepared with honor, but there is more. When years later they decided to transfer their remains to a more worthy tomb, they opened the coffin and found something they did to the most unbelievers shut up in reverence. Daisy's body was incorrupted, yes, intact, without odor, without deterioration, as if you were just sleeping. Do you understand what this means? It was the final test, the divine signature, the consecration of a life that was humiliated, hidden, abandoned. But from beginning to end, it was inhabited by God. And you who heard every part of this story may be wondering, why so much suffering? Why did anyone like this go through all this? And I tell you with an open heart, because the light shines stronger when it is born in the darkness. Daisy is living proof that what the world rejects, God raises, that what they call error, the sky calls a miracle, and that even the most injured soul can be chosen for something extraordinary. If you have come here, let it be recorded in your soul. You are not invisible to God, even when the world tries to shut you up, even when they throw you to the corner, even when they say you don't fit, that you are not worth, that you are not enough. God sees, God listens, God chooses, and He can make your pain the altar of a miracle. Now tell me, are you ready to know the legacy that Margarita left in the world? If you want, just call me to continue, because her story still lives. If you got here, I want to tell you something very special. It is no coincidence. It is no coincidence. You have been called. It may seem exaggeration, but it is not. If you stayed until the last minutes of this video, it is because something inside you is moving, and maybe you don't even know how to explain what it is, but God knows. Yes, God knows exactly why you are still here. This story of little Daisy, which was hidden, humiliated, forgotten by the world, touched you somehow, didn't you touch? Maybe you remembered an old pain, of a wound you tried to hide. Or maybe it was a subtle reminder, God is still with you. And that's why now, right now, I want to invite you to be part of something bigger. Subscribe now on the channel. Yes, right now, before leaving, because here, each video is more than a story. It is a prayer told. It is a light. It is a truth revealed to souls that, like you, are no longer looking for distraction. They are looking for meaning. And I want to ask you a gesture of faith, a sign. If you arrived until the end, leave a comment below with this sentence: I believe in the light that is born in the darkness. This phrase is not just a way of knowing that you have followed until the end. It is a spiritual statement. It is like lighting an invisible candle before the sky, saying, even without understanding everything, I keep believing. And do you know what is most beautiful? To every person who writes this here in the comments, we commit to praying for them. Yes, one by one, because here every soul matters. Now, if this story has touched you, if it made you reflect, or if you felt a knot in your throat at some point, leave your like. This is not just a button. It's a way of showing YouTube that this content is valuable. And when you do that, you are helping this message to reach thousands of other people who also need to hear it. Maybe people who are in the well today, thinking that God has forgotten them. But you know, and I know, He never forgets. And before you leave, don't close the screen yet. There is a video appearing here now, right in front of you. Click on it. Yes, click now. Because if this story has moved you, the next one will shake you inside. It will show you what happens when the sky responds unexpectedly. You will not want to lose. You have come here. This already says a lot about your soul. Now take the next step. Subscribe. He comments, I believe in the light that is born in the darkness. Leave your like and click on the next video. Your journey does not end here. She is just beginning.